Hello and welcome to Countdown to Power with me, Graeme Pryce. I really expected to be talking about Therese Coffey this week, but in a surprise move, Michael Gove overtook her in the poll at the last minute, so here we are. I have to say, I don't dislike Michael Gove as much as some of the other Tory bigots. I still think he's a deplorable little character, obviously, but he's in a different league than the likes of Braverman or Badenoch. A few friends and viewers have given me a few ideas of the more questionable actions he's taken, but I'd love to see comments about any particular reason you despise him in the comments below. I'd particularly like to hear from teachers and those who were affected by his education reforms. It seems to be one of the most hateful and incompetent things he did, amongst many, but I haven't included that in the points here because I think it could be a video all of its own and I'd like to do a bit of research on it first. Don't worry though, anyone with half a brain cell and a beating heart can see that Gove may not be as utterly objectionable as Jonathan Gullis or as stark raving mad as Lizzie the Lettuce Queen, but he's still a creepy, coked up little cockwomble and a Tory twat of the highest order, and I'll tell you why just after this. Just a quick interjection, won't take long, will only keep you a moment. YouTube takes a lot more notice of videos that are getting comments, likes and new subscribers and being watched right the way through. So if you could do one of the first three things and maybe watch a little bit longer than you might have otherwise, it would really help the channel loads, and it cheers me up loads too. Double win. Thank you. Michael Gove was born in Aberdeen in 1967 and actually attended pretty normal state schools, which could explain why he occasionally shows utterly un-Tory-like flashes of remorse and responsibility for his actions. Like another weird Tory outlier, or just liar, I suppose you could say, Lee Anderson, he was a member of the Labour Party at one point. Except with Gove it was in the early 80s. Then he went to Lady Margaret Hall, a constituent college of Oxford, and subsequently met Boris Johnson, who he was obviously rather captivated by, and his journey to twattery was complete. He was a fully committed Tory by the time he graduated. I guess he had long forgotten those dark days back in a state school in the early 70s, because when the Tories took office in 2010 and he became Secretary of State for Education, he immediately set about undoing the Building Schools for the Future plan that Labour had implemented across the country and halted the reconstruction and reconditioning of over 700 schools. In September 2023, after a further 13 years of neglect, over 100 schools were told their buildings were unfit for purpose and unsafe for use just days before the beginning of the school term. Hundreds more schools revealed they had problems, and it led to Gillian Keegan making a complete tit of herself on a hot mic on telly. So, silver linings. But the Tories conjured up a new dead cat within days, so everybody forgot about it. It's still not sorted now. Oh, and Michael Gove almost kind of apologised in a way. In 2016, he said he didn't regret that he'd done it, but he regretted the way that it was done. And he also said that he'd learned lessons and become a better minister for it. So that's alright then. Michael Gove can't be trusted. The reason we ended up with Theresa May as Prime Minister is because Michael Gove can't be trusted. It's easy to forget that we almost ended up with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister a lot earlier. Hot on the heels of the Leave campaign's victory, Michael was a major figure in Bullbag Johnson's attempt at self-aggrandisation and becoming Prime Minister, and Johnson's chances of the leadership bid were looking quite good in late 2016. That is, until Michael Gove decided he fancied a go at being a bit more important, and threw his own leadership bid in 3 days before the end. He knew he wouldn't win, but he also knew he'd take enough votes from Cockwaffle Johnson that he would make Theresa May an unassailable frontrunner. Apparently, Boris Johnson wanted to punch him in the face when he found out. That would have been hilarious if that was caught on camera, wouldn't it? Johnson's a fat bastard with hands like hammers, so I imagine Gove would have gone down like a sack of shit. Boof! Get down, Gove. There are a few more instances, but that's probably his worst instance of backstabbing. I'd imagine he decided he was more important to Theresa May than Boris Johnson, and he did serve as a minister in her government, so who knows what backroom dealings went on there. Apparently, stabbing someone in the back in Westminster is now called doing a Govey, though, so, I think we can conclude Michael Gove can't be trusted. Some of Michael Gove's colleagues say he sometimes has a novel way of getting his message across. He's got a reputation as quite a colourful character, to say the least. We'll be talking about that in a minute. He's made quite a few interesting admissions over the years as well. One saying that he used cocaine regularly in his earlier days when mixing with journalists and such like in the late 80s and early 90s. He clearly likes a scoop or two as well, having been caught on film a bit worse for wear a few times. What do you reckon he drinks? I reckon it's Blue Wicked with Absolute Vodka chasers and then onto Jägermeisters to finish the night. I'd imagine he spends quite a lot of time in the toilets as well. That could go some way towards explaining why once, when the police were contacted about drug use in Parliament, they attended Westminster and swabbed the cisterns on the toilets in 12 areas. They found traces of cocaine in 11 of the 12 tests. I'd imagine they weren't looking hard enough in the 12th one, or someone had given Govey a heads up and he'd been in there with a bottle of Jif and a dishcloth. There's a delightful clip of Michael Gove that demonstrates the state he turns up to the chambers in sometimes, that I'll leave a link for in the description box below. It's disgraceful, but it's kind of hard not to laugh. Check it out. As you would imagine for someone who's been an MP for so long and held numerous serious, ridiculous and pointless positions, Mr Gove has a long and detailed voting record. You can find a link for it below in the descriptions box. He's voted 10 times to restrict legal aid, which is quite sinister, and he's always voted strongly in favour of privatisation, especially privatisation of the NHS. He's voted both for and against having an elected House of Lords, so God knows what's going on there. Maybe he was just wandering around that day, gacked off his chops with a jaw like a typewriter, and accidentally sauntered into the wrong lobby. Who knows? He seems to be a bit of an ally to the LGBT community though, and he's always voted in favour of them. And surprisingly enough, for someone who is such a long-serving Tory bastard, he's only voted against laws to promote human rights and equality 4 times. Kemi Badenoch's managed more than that. She's only been an MP a couple of years. Let's not forget though that, he is a Tory, and while he doesn't mind you being gay, he does exist to make you poorer and make your life harder. So he's voted for reductions in welfare benefits 48 times. 48 times. He's voted against paying higher benefits to actual disabled people 15 times, and he voted for the bedroom tax 12 times. What a guy. Fuck's sake. I think where Gove is concerned, we can end on a tiny bit of a lighter note. He's certainly made some unusual decisions in comparison to most Tory bastards, but I think he made possibly his strangest decision in what he got up to in August of 2021. He somehow ended up alone, in a dishevelled suit with no tie, probably off his chops, on the dance floor of an Aberdeen nightclub, throwing shapes to various hardcore tunes. The venue was hosting a techno and jungle hardcore event that night, and apparently, according to the owner, Michael tried to dodge the £5 entry fee, saying he shouldn't have to pay because he was the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster at the time, which he was. You've got to wonder how that's been allowed to happen, haven't you? Does he not have people around him that advise him not to do these kind of things? Or is it a good thing that we live in a country where a Minister of State can decide to take himself off for a night of banging hardcore techno and jungle? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe we should be pleased that we've got ministers that want to. I don't know. But apparently he had great energy and stamina and was dancing the whole time he was there, according to the owner. I wonder where he was getting his stamina from, how much it was per gram, and whether he was claiming it on expenses. Well, what can't you say about Michael Gove? I could go on for ages. There's loads of things I haven't mentioned, but feel free to mention it yourself in the comments if he ever did something that particularly offended you. It's not like I'll be surprised. I mean, he's a Tory after all, and they're all twats, aren't they? Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far, and I wanted to say a special thank you to Mark Wilkie, who's become my very first patron a few days ago, and whose name will be added to the end credits. If you want to support the channel too, there's a link to Patreon along with PayPal and the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below. It does help loads, and it's very much appreciated. You'll find Michael Gove's voting record linked down there as well. Nadine the Gin Queen Dorries claimed that Michael Gove was behind the scenes on all sorts of dodgy dealings in her book. I know she's as batty as a belfry in a vampire film, but maybe there's a ring of truth in it. Yeah. Gove seems to be pretty settled in the job he's in now. Secretary of State for levelling up housing in communities. Not that he's done any levelling up, building houses, or bringing communities together, obviously, but he doesn't seem to work quite as hard to drive them apart as some nasty, bigoted Tory bigwigs. So, although no doubt he'll be back to talk absolute bollocks during the general election campaign, I doubt he'll be holding up our countdown to power. Are you listening to me talk about Michael Gove? He's a knobhead, isn't he, mate? Yeah, it's bad knobhead, isn't he? Think so? I do too.